Hey, it's Tracy. Listen, Emily and I are working our tushies off to make this show profitable, or at least to break even. You can help without spending a dime. Positive reviews help other listeners find us. So please, take a moment and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're listening on Spotify, give us a rating. Thanks.
You're not just one thing. When we give so much to one thing, and then that's taken away, it's lost, whatever the case may be, it's like, what do I do? When you have someone like a Miranda Priestly, they've given their all to this one thing. And if you take it away from me, or if I lose it, I have nothing else. For me personally, I'm always thinking about how to strike that balance. I give myself permission to take up space in different places.
Have you ever had something you love dismissed because it's just pop culture? What others might deem stupid shit, you know matters. You know it's worth talking and thinking about. And so do we. So come overthink with us as we delve into our deep thoughts about stupid shit. I'm Tracy Guy Decker, and you're listening to Deep Thoughts About Stupid Shit, because pop culture is still culture, and shouldn't you know what's in your head? On today's episode, we're welcoming a special guest, Tanesha Myles, to talk about The Devil Wears Prada. She's going to share her deep thoughts with me, with my sister Emily Guy Birkin, and with you. Let's dive in.
I love that.
Tanesha, welcome to Deep Thoughts About Stupid Shit. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Listeners, Tanesha Myles is perhaps best known for her 15 Minutes, which is a brief show on Instagram. You can find her on Insta at her 15 Minutes. Tanesha loves musicals, and right now she tells us she is addicted to jelly beans, at least until they run out, when she's going to return to her regular snack of gummy bears.
Gummy bears, yes. Yes.
So that's what we pick the bear.
Yeah.
We choose the bear.
Yes.
Unless there's jelly beans.
You summed me up. Yes. I'm on a sugar high today.
So today we're talking about The Devil Wears Prada. So I'll just briefly say about this film. This is actually one of my spouse's favorites, my ex-spouse's favorites. So I actually have seen it a number of times because they really love this movie. So kind of what's in my head is like, well, Miranda, the boss. The thing that I always think of first is the belt, where there's like two belts that are very, very close and like they're agonizing over which one is right. Yes. That's the scene that comes up for me when I think about this movie, is like the sort of minor differences that the average person and I can't even think of her name, but the protagonist like don't see initially, but like how important, Andy, thank you. But how important they are to the folks who are living in that world. That's what first comes up for me. And what's in your head about Devil Wears Prada?
Don't hate me, but I haven't seen it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I've never seen this film.
So is there anything?
I'm trying to convince you to see it.
Is there anything in your head?
So this is one of those films where, because it's in the zeitgeist, I've kind of picked some things up. And I love Anne Hathaway. So she's one of the people who like
Princess Diaries. We love her.
Yes. And like I would love for her to play me in the movie of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I would like ever think that I could get an Anne Hathaway to play me in the movie of my life, but you know, girl can dream. So, and I also, the style of Meryl Streep as Miranda Priestly in this is just like iconic. You know, I've seen so much of that. So that's kind of what's in my head is like the way that Meryl Streep conducts herself, because I've seen like the memes and what's going on with that. So it's more about the feelings about this film rather than anything about the plot. Mm-hmm. I know it's in like the world of fashion, and that I think that's part of the reason why I haven't seen it, because that is just a little bit outside, not just a little bit, that is outside of my wheelhouse.
I get it.
Even though I truly enjoy other things, like I was very much someone who loved Sex and the City, which is very much about fashion. And I think in this a similar sort of thing. It just kind of passed me by, and then I never got back to it. So I'm not tabula rasa. Like I'm familiar with the film. I just haven't seen it.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. All right.
The sequel's coming out. You can start backwards.
Yeah,
You can look
yeah.
at the sequel and work your way backwards.
So-
that hurts my heart to do it that way, though.
Yes.
So, but Tanesha, like, why do you love this film? You made it clear you love this film. Like, why is this film so special to you?
It's so special to me. So first of all, I'm not into fashion, but I am into fashion. And so I loved the fashion in the movie. That's number one. And I love anything that shows a glimpse into a society in which I don't live in. And so just to have like that window into what happens in the fashion industry, I watched the series September, I think with the editor of Vogue and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like very intrigued about people's stories. I fell into living in this movie. In a former career of mine, I was actually living in this movie and I didn't even know it. So I left the federal government and I went to go work for a large nonprofit here in Washington, D.C. And I was very hesitant to accept the position. So on the third interview, I didn't anticipate meeting with the CEO. And the head of HR says to me, you know, she's available. She's just leaving out of a meeting. Can you stay? And I'm like, okay, sure, I can stay. And she walks in the room. And she walks in the room. She is a Black Miranda walking in the room. I mean, she is polished to the nines. I'm like, what is happening here? And so I immediately started in my head editing what I had on. I'm like, what are you wearing? And there is a scene in the movie where Miranda says to Andy, like, Andy, and she just kind of pauses and she kind of looks her up and down to indicate, like, what are you wearing? Like, this is the fashion industry. What do you have on? And so I immediately start going over like my shoes, my, everything. Like, what do you like the side that I had my part on in my hair? I'm like, what is like, I felt immediately intimidated and I'm not very intimidated. And she was just a very polished, well-presented person. And so I go back and I told my coworker, when you're getting ready to leave a job, you only tell one coworker,
Right.
I'm looking, I'm leaving any day, I'm out of here. So I'm telling her about it. And she's like, she's a bitch. I said, well, how did you get that? She's like, I can tell already. Are you sure you want to go? And I said, oh my gosh. And I could just tell that she was going to be extremely needy. And that had not been my experience. And when I say needy, I meant very needy. And I start thinking about my age, where I was in my career. I said, oh my gosh, this is something that like entry level. I don't know if I can do all of this, but the salary's $20,000 more. So maybe I can do it. I don't know. Like I'm going through all of these things. So I ended up accepting this position. And I can just tell you that I have personally lived so many scenes of that movie.
Huh.
So many scenes. The spilled coffee, where she says, I need to have my coffee. And this is not an entry-level position for me. I was in a senior leadership role, but also supporting the CEO. And this is how she worked. And every day, I have to be honest with you, for the first month, I cried like at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Oh my God.
Because I said I've made a mistake because it was so stressful. I wasn't a spring chicken. I didn't imagine that at this level in my career, I'd be slopping coffee and running across the street and all of these crazy things. I'm like, this is insane. Like, what am I doing? So I've lived this movie and yeah.
Did you see the movie after you had this job?
I saw the movie before.
Okay.
And I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until my former coworker says to me, she's like that lady in that movie. What's the name of that movie? And we both said at the same time, The Devil Wears Prada.
Huh. Okay. All right. I definitely see what's at stake for you then, if it sort of like describes your life. But
Yes.
especially since Emily hasn't seen it, can you remind us of like the basic plot or the characters of Devil Wears Prada? Like, what are we working with here?
So Andy is a journalist who's just graduated from college, and she is looking to break into journalism, whether with the magazine, a newspaper, or something like that. And she ends up getting an interview with one of the top fashion magazines. And I don't want to say that she looks homey, but she kind of looks a little homey. She's really not into fashion at all. She's kind of a nerd in a sense. And she enters this world where fashion drives everything. And so she needs a job. She goes into this situation. And Miranda Priestly is the editor in chief of this like amazing fashion magazine. And she is like an A personality. She's not very warm, but yet she is warm in her own way. She's not really a B, but she is a B, if that makes sense. She's not nice, but she is nice. And so it really is my story with this one particular organization that I was working with, because what ends up happening is she sees something in Andy that Andy didn't recognize in herself, that you're more than what you thought you were, right? And she kind of pulls Andy into her sphere. And so it disrupts her personal life. And in some ways, it's for the better, because her friends actually, like her boyfriend, he actually took a career risk and moved to a whole nother state, got a much better job just by looking at her in this transition. Her experience really affected everyone around her. But it was also a cautionary tale because Miranda Priestly was on her third divorce. And her career, the sacrifices that she had made to reach this level of success really cost her a lot. And at one point, Andy sees herself in Miranda because now she's having problems with the boyfriend, her friend circle. They're starting to pull back. They don't understand this new Andy. They're really not in support of it. And I can just tell you that all of those emotions, all of those feelings, all of those situations, I found myself in. So I was living in the Devil Wears Prada. I mean, in this one organization, I probably walked through every scene of that movie with this organization. There was one point in the movie where, so Miranda has a first assistant, second assistant, and the first assistant was making fun of her about the way she was dressed and all of the things. She didn't understand any fashion lingo, none of that. And so the friend of one of the first assistant's colleagues said, "How did she get this job? Like, what is she doing here? Do you see what she's wearing?" And I remember for months, the director of finance kept saying to me, "Did she meet you before you were hired? Are you sure she met you?" Like he kept asking me that. He said, "Did she meet you? When did you meet her? Did you meet her on the first interview, the second interview?" He's like, "You're not going to last. You're not going to last. You're not going to last. You're not going to last." And so it was this running joke in the office that I wasn't going to last. And I have to tell you, in this moment, she's one of my closest friends.
Wow.
And I think, and I don't want to see it because I don't think it's going to be any good, but I think we're going to see in the sequel Miranda and Andy's relationship develop to more of a friendship. I think that's where it's going to go. But I don't want to see it.
So at the end of the film, Andy leaves. Anne Hathaway
Yes.
leaves her position, and
Yes.
she's like looking to get another job, and she gets she doesn't know this happens, but she finds out that Miranda has called the editor of this new
Yes.
newspaper or magazine or whatever it is that she's applied to and said, you're an idiot if you don't hire her.
Yes.
So even though like things were like weird and strained and like a
Tense.
bitch but not a bitch and like
Yes.
all the things,
Yes.
like even after Andy has left, now Miranda calls up her colleague at this other publication and is like, you need to hire this person. So
Yeah.
so Miranda's advocating for her behind the scenes. There's nothing in it for Miranda at that point.
Yes.
Okay.
That like the only thing is maybe I could make an argument that Miranda is validating her own hire, but even that I don't think so because she fires people all the time.
Yes.
So there really is nothing in it for Miranda. So like I think so that you see that, Emily, like sort of some of the underscores, because Miranda's very short with, condescending to, like,
Yes.
just not warm is an understatement for the way that these two characters interact.
Yeah.
And so the fact that despite all of that, like, tension and friction, we learn after the fact that there was respect. Which, so I'm telling you all of this, Emily, all of this, and reminding our listeners of this, because I want to ask you, Tanesha, like, so you lived this movie, and I can see why then that would make it really special to you. And like, because it's real, right?
Yes.
You see like, you feel seen in a way, I expect, by seeing this movie that reflects experiences that you had.
Absolutely.
So the question I have, like, there's being seen, and then there's like, and what do I want people to know about it? Like, does it give those lessons? Like, and what are they of the, like, I've never been in, I wouldn't last. Like, the colleague who said that to me would have been right, because like, if I'm crying myself to sleep a couple times a week, like, I'm out. It's not for me. So like, I'm curious, like, so what are the lessons that viewers of this movie who have not lived it, forget about fashion, just in that boss and employee relationship that you have lived, that now this person is a friend of yours, like, what are the things that are baked into the movie that you want to make sure people know about this kind of a relationship since you've lived it?
I think people should give themselves more credit, more grace, and be willing to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Because I have found personally for me, it has been in those uncomfortable, unfamiliar spaces is where my superpower has shown up. It's where I've grown. It's where I've stretched. It's where the next evolution of Tanesha was formed. And had I not really stuck with it, some of the things that I'm doing today is a direct correlation to me being in that space and allowing myself to be challenged and to be uncomfortable. Like I said, I'm not a very easily intimidated individual. And really what happened was there's a moment in the movie when Miranda says to Andy, I hired you because I see myself in you. And so what she was doing, whether we can talk about the method, right? It was a little brutal, but what she was doing was she was helping her develop to a station, a place in her career that she hadn't even considered. And for me, it was the same thing. When she saw me, she saw herself. And likewise, when she walked into that room, and all that glory on the interview, and it's like all of the lights and the, like, who is this person? In that moment, very honestly, when I left that interview and I got in the car and I called my best friend, I was like, I want to be this chick. When I walk into a room, I went, I want the heavens to open up. I want to see, because she was so very well spoken, polished. Her presentation was flawless. She's the CEO of a large organization. This is where I see myself. So I think it was the both and I would just say that don't immediately discredit or discount or run away from situations that are uncomfortable. That's what I would say.
I think the thing you just said is really interesting. I want to just reflect, like, tease it out just a little further, and then I see that my sister has something she wants to share. So when I think about this movie, like, I'm often like, Andy turned into someone she didn't even recognize. Like, I don't know if this was a good thing for her. But what you're suggesting, which I really like, is that it wasn't about fashion. It was never about fashion. It was about taking up space and allowing oneself to take up space. And Miranda Priestly does it, goes too far, because even in her personal life, she takes up so much space that she pushes her husbands away, right?
Right.
So, like, she's not, it's, we don't want Andy to become Miranda.
Sure.
But the sense that Andy's relationship with Miranda, like, allows Andy to take up more space, that feels like a really important framing of that relationship that I didn't have before we hit record today. Like, I wasn't thinking of it that way. I was thinking about, like, pushing her to know her limits and, like, you know, pushing her to, like, think about more details and, like, some of those things. But the actual, like, permission to fill a role.
Right.
I had not been thinking of it that way. And I think that the way you just described it, even in your, like, I want to be this chick, in that first moment, like, there's a degree of that we see eventually Andy gets to.
Yes.
She doesn't want to push her husband away, but she wants to, like, have presence. I like that a lot. Yeah.
So the thing that struck me with the fact that Miranda, like, advocates for Andy at the end to get her that other job, and then with the fact that she is unapologetic about firing people, is we as women are so, like, pushed to be nice. And it sounds like Miranda is not nice, but she is kind. And, like, and that's a weird thing to say, because, like, I know because of the zeitgeist, I know, like, kind is not the word you'd think of when you think of this character. But that is a very kind thing to do when she advocates for Andy, because it is, like, no one would judge her for not doing it. That is a kind thing to do, to advocate for her and say, you'd be an idiot to not hire this person. And so, and, like, that kind of fits in with what you're talking about with taking up space, which is, like, I refuse to perform niceness. I refuse to fit into this societal idea of what women are supposed to be and make myself small and, you know, do the performative niceness, which is often cruel. Like, performative niceness is often, like, you say one thing and then you cut someone behind their back.
Yeah.
And I have no idea if there's anything like that within the film.
Yes, but there is a moment.
Yeah. With the creative director, is that the one you're thinking of when she cuts him out? Yeah.
Yeah.
But taking up space, which is often considered bitchy when a woman does that, and being direct, which is often considered bitchy, and, like, refusing to apologize, refusing to be anything other than who you are, like, it's revolutionary while still maintaining that inner core of decency and kindness. I think that's something that is worth aiming for as well. Again, like, The Devil Wears Prada. There's a reason why that's the title.
Yeah.
Like, she sounds like a nightmare boss. But I would rather, my goal in life is to be kind, not nice. That's a tension there that I think is, and it sounds like Andy at the beginning was nice, but not necessarily kind.
Maybe.
I mean, is it really The Devil Wears Prada, though? Because was she really a devil?
Right.
Thinking back on it, she really wasn't a devil. And she saw herself in Andy, not just with her ambition, but also in some of the not so nice things. Because at one point, Andy is offered an opportunity to go to Paris, and the first assistant was supposed to go, and something happened. And she's like, "Oh no, I can't do that, Miranda." And Miranda's like, "Yes, you can." She's like, "No, I can't do that. I'm not that person." And it was like a mirror moment, because she said, "You've already done it." So it's like you're giving, on one hand, you have all of these thoughts about how I do what I do, but at the end of the day, you would do the same thing, or you have done the same thing already, but because it has not been as elevated as where I am, it's been kind of hidden. And so you're really not as nice as you think you are, because it starts to show with the friend group, and then it shows up at work. So I don't think Andy was really as nice as it appeared on the surface. and Miranda wasn't as mean.
Let's talk about that moment with the creative director, though. Remind me, in my head, there's some credit that she takes for his work or something, but remind me what it actually, because I don't know if that's right.
So what was happening was there was some merger of sorts, and Miranda had recommended her creative director to take on a much higher role in this new magazine. But what she didn't realize was in doing that, they were looking to replace her. And so when she found out, she kind of finagled things from behind the scenes, and she worked it so the person that was supposed to take her job actually took the creative director's job. And so it saved her job, but it kept him in the position that he was in. And so Andy looks at him and he says, she'll pay me back for this. And
Right.
then Andy says, will she? And he goes, I don't know.
Tracie here. I'm interrupting your regularly scheduled podcast to invite you to join me and Emily at this month's Zoom Hangout. Sunday, April 26th at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. Take a break from your Sunday chores or your doom scrolling and join us in a Zoom room for smart, silly shenanigans. Find the link to RSVP in your show notes.
Yeah, I remember in my memory, he's like deeply disappointed by the news. Like he and Andy are together when it comes out, and he's surprised by it, by the announcement. So that's a moment, like when you were like, I don't know if there's a moment that's like not kind. Like that's the moment that Tanesha and I both were, I think, like, oh yeah, there's definitely a like, because he's been
18 years with her.
Yeah, like supporting her for a long time. Like they are a partnership in creating the magazine. Like she's the editor-in-chief and he's her creative director. So they've been like creating this magazine together for all of this time. They are a partnership.
Is this the Stanley Tucci character?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And she just like in that moment, he realizes she's at the podium. So she hasn't even told him in advance.
Right.
Like he hears it. He thinks one thing is happening and then it gets announced that this other thing is happening that is not what he thought was going to happen and is not good for him. And yeah, he hopes that she'll make it right somehow, but
he has no way of knowing.
But also she's at this point in her life where work is all she has. Like she doesn't have anything else. She's on her third divorce. She sacrificed everything for this. So she can't lose the one thing because this is it. This is the only thing that she can control. This is the only thing that she has. That's pretty sad.
Yeah.
That was pretty sad.
Yeah. And that feels like a cautionary tale for Andy and for us watching, right? About, to put it in the terms that I said earlier, like when taking up space in this particular role becomes your entire identity.
Yeah.
Then it's a very high cost, right? As Tanesha just said, like Miranda has no personal relationships that are actually true friendships or that are lasting.
I think it's hard to strike a balance, but it's something that we have to be mindful of all the time. You're not just one thing. You're not just one expression. And I think when we try to box ourselves and we, the whole put all of your eggs in one basket scenario, when we give so much to one thing and then that's taken away, it's lost, whatever the case may be, it's like, what do I do? And so I think when you have someone like a Miranda Priestly, they've given their all to this one thing. And if you take it away from me, or if I lose it, I have nothing else because I've not made any investments in any other expressions of myself or in any other relationships or in any other spaces, right? I've done none of that. And so for me personally, I'm always thinking about how to strike that balance. Because on one hand, I want to be really great over here, but then at the same time, I realize I give myself permission to be expressive in various ways. I give myself permission to, as you say, take up space in different places.
Yeah.
And I think it's challenging for some people because we don't really develop the whole person.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we don't know who we are when we lose that singular identity. I'd like to ask you about sort of your impression from this film about gender a little bit, because like the way we're describing Miranda with her ambition and the taking up space and the very polished, like if she were a dude, we'd be like, now that guy's going places, right? Like,
well, that's
like,
what Andy says in the movie.
Does she say it? I don't remember. Like
she says
like,
that in the movie.
Even the sort of like the devil association with her, right? Like we wouldn't say that about a man, right? Andy makes that plain in the movie.
I think she's talking to the publisher from the other magazine that she meets in Paris.
Yep.
And he's speaking very negatively about Miranda. And he's like, admit it. She's like this, she's like that. And she's like, no, she isn't. And if she was a man, we wouldn't be saying this at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is a lot of sexism in this movie. And you are 100% correct. If it were a man operating in the same manner, it wouldn't be a problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's when women show up confident, self-assured, self-aware.
Not nice.
Yeah, not nice. Tracie's like, she's not nice, Tanesha. Just admit it. She's not nice. I think that's a whole nother conversation, because I think sometimes as women, we sacrifice the kindness because we see success in certain spaces as being masculine, and masculine looks unkind. When it comes to women, it comes off unkind.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you can be kind and still be successful and confident and self-assured and highly skilled and highly knowledgeable. I think you could do all those things. And, it's just the world that we live in, and we're always trying to strike that balance. Her presence was very feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Her presence was very feminine. But again, her dismissive nature, not being kind, being very short, cutting Andy off, not really having any emotional connection with her. She didn't really connect with her. It was all business, business, business. I think for some women, they see that as that's been their example of success or leadership. We often say that women are very emotional and men are not. I don't believe that. I think men are just as emotional as women. It just looks different.
Right.
And because it looks different and ours is more so worn on our sleeves, it's harder to detect. But I don't think for 1 minute that men aren't as emotional. Ask my ex-husband. He cried all the time. Cry, baby. Just to get on my nerves. It was like, he's crying again. I don't want to go counseling. I don't want to go to counseling because he's going to cry. He's going to cry. And then I'm going to sit here and look like Tracie said. Tanisha's not nice. Tanisha's not being nice. Because he's crying and I'm sitting here stoic.
Because you don't want to do the emotional labor. I don't blame you.
Like, let me get it.
One thing I am also thinking about is how we are programmed to think that kindness looks like one thing. I'm thinking about the fact that Miranda is happy to fire people quickly. And like, that seems like an unkind thing. But if someone is not a good fit, it is actually kinder to let them go so that they can find a better fit than it is to string it along. And now I'm saying that this is in a perfect world where we're not in like the capitalist hellscape that is the United States and where like our health insurance depends on where we work and that bullshit. But putting someone on an improvement plan and all that crap when you are in a job that you just are not a good fit for is so much more humiliating and painful than simply being let go. Even though that is painful, it's a quick, sharp pain that is over quickly and is kinder, even though you're out the door like putting up two middle fingers going, what a bitch,
Mm-hmm.
than you would be if Miranda came to you and was like, let's put you on an improvement plan. And how can I help? And doing the things that we would consider to be normal, kind behavior. And so, like, that's something also to be thinking about as well, is like her shortness and her lack of patience could also be a kind of kindness.
Yeah.
Just removing the fact that we're in a capitalist hellscape.
Right. Yeah.
Hopefully that means they get severance.
Do you think, Tanesha, like, if we think about what you just said about Miranda being sort of one vision of success that presents it, like mimicking some of the masculine, I'm putting quotes around that word, ways of leadership. Is Andy the counterpoint to that? Like, do we see her as she develops as sort of a way to balance that, the so-called feminine and masculine leadership styles? I'm putting aside any argument we might have with labeling them that way, which I do have, but societally they are viewed that way.
I think so, because I see Andy as being the best version of Miranda.
Interesting.
Without the trauma, without the experiences. She's looking at her from a fresh perspective, like, wow, this is who I started out as. But then the trauma, the drama, the backstabbing, the divorces, the life happens. And now this is what I've become. But I started out as Andy, very whimsical, fresh-faced, very caring, very kind,
ambitious,
still concerned about hurting her friends' feelings. I think when she missed her boyfriend's birthday party, I think it really hurt her. I think she was really sad. I think she was really torn by that. I don't think that was an easy decision for her to make. But fast forward years later, looking at Miranda Priestly, after all of those decisions, right? Has developed a callus in a sense, and she's not as emotionally attached. She's not as affected if she missed something. There's a moment in the movie where she says, I have to go to this party, have the car pick me up, drop me off at 6:30, and I want to be picked up at 6:45. Like 50, I'm just going to circle the room. Basically, I'm just going to circle the room and leave. Like, I have no intention on engaging with anyone on a really human level. I'm here for business. You saw me, I'm out of here. But Andy wasn't that way. And I think that when she called the magazine for her and gave her that reference, I think in a way she was protecting who Andy was. Like, you don't necessarily need to be over here. I see some qualities in you that this industry, right? This may be too much for you. And I think that she wanted to support her in her goals. Yeah, I think so.
I like that idea that, I mean, Miranda says she sees herself in Andy, but that idea that she's protecting her own younger self, like in part from the misogyny and the sexism, right? Like, even having been there first and developed that callus, right? That then she's able to, in some small way, protect this younger woman who's coming up from behind, so that she doesn't have to suffer quite the same slings and arrows that Miranda.
That is a real moment. I remember years ago having a conversation with my father, and I was following somewhat in his footsteps. And he said to me, you're going to be great. You're going to be so much better than I am. Now, as a parent, you always want your children to be better than you. But what he said to me, and I'll never forget it, even till this day, he said to me, because you're not like me. You're better than me. You still care. I don't give a shit. That's what my father said to me. He's like, I don't give a shit. He's like, but you actually care. I don't care anymore. I don't care enough to do it this way or that way. But you do. You're different from me. And so that's why that moment with Andy resonates with me because I had a personal conversation with my dad that, like, I get it. He's like, you like me, you can do this, 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 and this. He said, but you're going to be better than me because you care. And I don't care. I was like, I don't care. All of the things that have happened in this industry over my life has brought me to a place where I'm not as caring. And I recognize it because even when Andy tries to console her when she learns about the third divorce, she's like, oh my gosh, Miranda, I'm so sorry. You know, because she's still soft. Is there any, like, she wants to hug her, really. Is there anything I can do for you? And Miranda just sits up, you can do your job. And she's like, and she shrinks back down. Okay. I think Andy thought there was going to be a moment between her and Miranda. They were going to get to hug and, you know, eat some cookie dough ice cream or something. But she's like, no. She's like, you can do your job. Like, I don't even give into emotions anymore. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we're getting close to the point where I would sort of reflect back, but I want to make sure, is there something that you were like, I'm going on this podcast to talk about Devil Wears Prada. I need to make sure that I say, is there anything that you wanted to make sure that you talked about before we?
No, we covered it.
Okay.
I cussed twice. Yeah. I talked about my dad, which I rarely do. And so, yeah, I pretty much said it all.
Okay. We cuss a lot on this show, so.
Yeah, we do.
You're in good company.
Look. So, yeah, I think I've covered it.
Okay. All right. Well, I will just see if I can reflect back. You brought a different perspective than I expected to this movie because of your life experience, right? So the reason that this movie was so important to you is because you lived it. Not in the fashion industry, but with that sort of supervisor, supervisee relationship with someone who was exacting and demanding and not nice. I'm putting that in parentheses.
Yes.
It's not parentheses, in quotation marks, because nice is not always kind, as Emily pointed out. So sort of all of the ways in which we see, I mean, you said a couple times, Tanesha, that you lived every scene in this movie.
I have.
So that brings a different perspective to this kind of analysis than we often have on this show. So that's really interesting. And one of the things that, because of that, I think you illuminated for me is the way in which this experience didn't change Andy for the worse, the way some people watch this movie and think that's the case, and the way Andy's friends think that's what happens.
Yeah.
Rather, it didn't even like strengthen her, like work hardening, which is the way some people will talk about it. Rather, I think from your experience and analysis, what I'm taking away is that this experience that Andy has working for Miranda actually teaches her that she is allowed to take up space, and that taking up space is necessary to success. Now, stepping on people's toes is not necessary. It often comes with taking up space, but it doesn't have to. Miranda does step on people's toes. And I think that the hope, based on your sort of your analysis and your lens on this, is that Andy, as sort of an earlier version of Miranda, without the additional like trauma and like sludge and yuck on her, will be able to find that balance of leadership that takes up space but doesn't step on toes.
Yes. Yes.
We talked a bit too about Miranda as a cautionary tale, not of like a woman being too ambitious. Nah, that's not what we said. Rather, as a cautionary tale of someone who invests 100% of their energy into a singular identity. So much so that if that identity, if that position in this case is threatened, she does whatever it takes to hold on to it, including throwing one of her oldest friends and colleagues under the bus. And so we viewed that the cautionary tale that I think a lot of kind of surface level analysis of this movie might take would be about women in ambition or fashion, maybe. That's not what you're suggesting. And I think that's really important distinction that you're making. The cautionary tale of Miranda Priestly is not about ambition. It's actually about like singularity and single-mindedness that then robs a person of relationships, options, and identity at the end of the day. Because who is Miranda Priestly if she doesn't have her magazine? She doesn't know.
She doesn't know.
And that terrifies her.
Yes.
And I think that's actually also a really, really interesting like distinction for this film. Maybe folks are saying that. That's not the way I was viewing it before we hit record 45 minutes ago. So thank you for that. What did I forget from what we spoke about? Oh, I remember Emily brought in, we talked about the difference between being nice and being kind. And Miranda is almost never nice, but she is sometimes kind. And that's an important distinction, and one that I think I agree with Emily that actually is more important and more useful to our world. Kindness is much more useful to the world than niceness.
Yes.
What else did I forget? Anything?
Just the protecting that soft underbelly.
The way that Miranda was protecting Andy as the younger version of her. Yeah. And that the callus that she has formed hopefully can like be a shield moving forward. Oh, and then Tanesha brought in her dad when thinking about that. And the you're just as capable as I am and you still care. So you're going to do a better job.
I'm thinking in this moment, that CEO who I had all of those experiences with, her and I are friends now. And this was 8 to 10 years ago. And she is constantly reminding me, remember what happened to me. Remember what happened to me. Remember what happened to me. And she said, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it. And so that's why I said I believe that Miranda was trying to protect. Don't make the same mistakes that I made. And really, it was a good place for Andy to be in that moment because it offered her a mirror. And so she could, from that experience, make a decision. Am I going to go this way or am I going to go this way? And so it really gave her an opportunity that she wouldn't have had outside of that experience.
While giving her a model of what it looks like to take up space. But like, take what's good and you know, leave the stuff that is dangerous. Yeah. Wow. I am thinking about this movie differently, so thank you for that. Yeah. Tanesha Myles has been our guest today. You can find Tanesha on Instagram at her15minutes.
Yes.
It is where she actually meets with women and talks about sort of the ways that they stay grounded. I had the privilege to be on her 15 minutes a little while ago. It was great fun. So thank you again, Tanesha, for making the time. It was great to be with you.
This has been wonderful.
And next week, I believe it's me, right? I'm going to bring you my deep thoughts about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh.
So excited about that.
This show is a labor of love, but that doesn't make it free to produce. If you enjoy it even half as much as we do, please consider helping to keep us overthinking. You can support us at our Patreon. There's a link in the show notes. Or leave a positive review so others can find us. And of course, share the show with your people. Thanks for listening. Our theme music is Professor Umlaut by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com. Find full music credits in the show notes.
Thank you to Resonate Recordings for editing today's episode.
Until next time, remember, pop culture is still culture. And shouldn't you know what's in your head?